Welcome, everybody, to another episode of On This Day on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, for On This Day. And on this day, December the 12th, 1965, rookie Gayle Sayers scores 6 touchdowns versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, in the 1965 college player draft, the Chicago Bears held 3 choices in the first round thanks to trades with Pittsburgh and Washington. With the 3rd and 4th overall choices, they went with linebacker Dick Butkus and Kansas halfback Gayle Sayers. 2 picks later, they drafted Steve DeLong, a tackle from Tennessee, who would sign with the AFL San Diego Chargers instead of playing for the Bears. But a first-round draft of Butkus and Sayers is not a bad draft at all, and they displayed their quality right away as rookies. The 6'3", 250-pound Butkus took over for Hall of Famer Bill George, middle linebacker for the Monsters of Midway, and was considered among the elite at the position by the end of the season due to his aggressiveness and ability to cover plenty of ground. Sayers, the Kansas Comet, at 6 foot, 198 pounds, proved equally adept at the halfback position, displaying not only great speed but uncanny running instincts and the ability to effortlessly change directions in the open field. Through 12 games in that 1965 season, Sayers put his all-around skills to good use. He ran for 672 yards on 143 attempts, which is 4.7 yards per carry, with 9 touchdowns. He caught 27 passes for 418 yards, a nice little number of 15.5 yards out of the backfield, catching the ball with another 5 touchdowns. In addition, he returned a kickoff for a score, giving him a total of 15 touchdowns thus far on that year. He had gone over the 100-yard mark rushing in the previous 2 games without carrying the ball more than 16 times in either game. On December 12th, playing on a muddy turf at Wrigley Field against the visiting San Francisco 49ers, Sayers had one of the greatest all-around games in pro football history. His coach, Papa Bear George Halas, who had seen a lot of great days by many outstanding players over the course of his career, which dated back to the original founding of the league, later called this the best single-game performance that he had ever witnessed. San Francisco had crushed the Bears at Old Kezar Stadium in the season opening game, and the Bears were determined to go on the attack by overloading to the left side against the 49ers defense. They did so in their second possession of the first quarter with quarterback Rudy Bukic tossing a screen pass to Sayers on 2nd and 10 on their own 20-yard line. Getting good blocks, the speedy halfback treaded his way for an 80-yard touchdown to start what would be a historic day. The Bears were up 13-0 after the first quarter, the extra point attempt after the Sayers touchdown was missed, and San Francisco came back to score on a 9-yard pass from quarterback John Brody to split in Dave Parks to cut the Chicago lead to 13-7 with just 5 minutes left in the half. Here's one for you. The other touchdown for the Bears that day to make it 13 was a touchdown catch of 29 yards by future Hall of Famer and Bears head coach Mike Ditka. Sayers scored on a 21-yard run, leaping over cornerback Jimmy Johnson for the 49ers at the 3 to make it 20-7. Back came the 49ers on a 15-yard Brody pass to halfback John David Crow. And in the last minute, Sayers caught a 9-yard pass that set up his 3rd touchdown of the game on a 7-yard sweep. Chicago led at the half 27-13. Sayers scored his 4th touchdown early in the 3rd quarter on a 50-yard run sprung by blocks thrown by tight end Ditka, flanker Johnny Morris, and guard Bob Witowski. On the next Bears possession, Sayers made it 5 touchdowns on a dive from a yard out. It was 47-20 at this point in favor of the Bears after halfback Dave Kopay scored for the 49ers, and Chicago responded with an 8-yard TD pass to split in Jim Jones. Sayers had one more big play to add on this day, however. The 49ers punted, and he gathered the ball in at the Chicago 15-yard line. Taking off up the middle, Sayers cut to his left and then back against the flow, blazing into the clear and ending up with an 85-yard return for his record-tying 6th touchdown of the game. That record had been set by Dub Jones of the old Cleveland Browns and Ernie Nevers of the Cardinals. That was it for Sayers. In spite of the chance from the crowd, when the Bears drove close once more, it was halfback John Arnett scoring from 2 yards out to cap the 61-20 Bears win. As Halas said afterward, I'd never forgiven myself that I allowed him to stay in the game and he was seriously injured. For the day, Sayers ran the ball for 113 yards on 4 touchdowns on just 4 carries. He caught 2 passes for 89 yards and another touchdown, with yet another 134 yards on 5 punt returns, including the touchdown. On the day, December the 12th, 1965, he accumulated 336 total yards, adding the 6 touchdowns to his season total. He broke the single season record of 20, set just the previous year by Baltimore's Lenny Moore. The Bears lost the season finale, but ended up with a 9-5 record, good enough for third place in the Western Conference, having dipped to 5-9 in 1964 after winning the '63 NFL championship. They had gone 9-2 after losing the first 3 games of the year and were widely considered to be playing better than any other team in the league during the second half of the season. Much of the reason for that has to be attributed to 2 of the most impactful rookies you could ever have on any roster, and they were on the same roster together, Sayers and Butkus. As for the 49ers, they ended up in 4th place in the West with a 7-6-1 tally. When it was all over, Gayle Sayers ended up with a league-leading 2,272 yards, with 867 on the ground on just 166 attempts, which was good for over 5 yards per carry. He had 507 yards receiving on 27 pass receptions and 660 yards on 21 kickoff returns, and another 238 on 16 punt returns. With one last TD in the final game, he ended up with a new NFL record of 22 touchdowns. Cleveland's Jim Brown, in his last season, was right behind at 21. While the season record has long since been broken, it still stands as a record for today. And I would suggest if you get a chance, you can go on YouTube and you can find all 6 touchdowns from that day, December 12th, 1965. And the sad thing is, with the injuries that happened with Gayle Sayers, a lot of people forget just how great a running back he was. But for an open field runner, take Barry Sanders and imagine him just a little bit better. Gayle Sayers was that good. And on this day, December 12th, 1965, at least for one day, there can be no question, nobody was ever as good as Gayle Sayers that day. Once again, you've been listening to On This Day on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. You can hear us every day. Just go to thegruelingtruth.com to find us. You can also find us on every major outlet that has podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. You name it, we're there. But for now, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.